win, go win, go win, go win, go win, man, go win.
Let's transition and go to Philadelphia. A matchup in the city of brotherly love as the Denver Broncos improved to 3-2 on the season after they beat the Philadelphia Eagles 21-17. The Eagles are now 4-1 on the season. The Broncos, Bo Nix had it going. He went 24 for 39. He threw for 242 passing yards, 1 touchdown. Cortland Sutton had 8 receptions, 99 yards receiving for the Broncos. For the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, he went 23 for 38. He threw for 280 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith, 8 receptions, 114 receiving yards. So, as I evaluated this Broncos-Eagles game yesterday in Philadelphia, I watched some of these sports shows earlier today, and I heard a bunch of shows talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. And the Philadelphia Eagles are the defending Super Bowl champions. And coming into this matchup, they were 4-0 on the season. And we know how great the Philadelphia Eagles are as a football team. But to me, this game was all about the Denver Broncos and the Denver Broncos' ability to erase a 14-point deficit and beat the Eagles in the fourth quarter. The Broncos, after falling behind 17-3, the Broncos outscored the Eagles 18-0 in the fourth quarter, and in my eyes, they stole one on the road. They literally went into Philadelphia and stole a game on the road. I'm looking at this game, and in the first half, the Eagles, they were up 10-3 over the Broncos, and in the first half, the Eagles had it going offensively, and Jalen Hurts threw a passing touchdown to Dallas Goedert, and the Eagles were outplaying the Broncos in the first half. They were up 10-3 at halftime. They added on top of that lead in the third quarter, and they went up 17-3 in the third quarter. And Jalen Hurts had threw a pass to Saquon Barkley. It was a 47-yard catch and run for Saquon, and the Eagles were rolling. It was 17-3. And in the fourth quarter, the Denver Broncos flipped the switch, and they got back in this game, and they played sensational. Let's look at Bo Nix and how he played in the first half compared to how he played in the second half. Bo Nix, in the first half, he went 10 for 21. He threw for 79 yards, no passing touchdowns, no interceptions. In the second half, 14 for 18, 163 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. And I'm looking at Bo Nix. Bo Nix is in his sophomore season in the NFL. In his first season in the NFL, Bo Nix had 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 3,775 passing yards. Now, he got off to a slow start to begin the season, and I'm looking at the Broncos. They obviously started the season off. Remember, they beat the Titans in week 1. They had 2 consecutive losses against the Colts, who's a better team than I originally thought they would be coming into the season. And then they lost a tough game against the Chargers in week 3 out in LA. But Sean Payton, who is a Hall of Fame head coach, immediately after losing to the Chargers in week 3, Sean Payton, he said, hey, we are a good football team. We have to string together a few wins. and will get on the right path. And that's exactly what the Denver Broncos have done over the last 2 weeks. Week 4, they blew out the Bengals in Denver 28-3. And in this game against the Philadelphia Eagles, I believe the Denver Broncos had a statement win against the Philadelphia Eagles. And I'm looking at the Broncos offensively. In the game, they had 23 first downs. The Eagles only had 16 first downs. The Broncos had 130 rushing yards. The Eagles only had 45 rushing yards, which I'm going to get to in a bit. The Broncos had 358 total yards of offense. The Eagles had 302 total yards of offense. But what I'm most impressed with is the Broncos defense. That Broncos defense, they had 6 sacks on Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. That's what impressed me the most about this win. I believe Bo Nix is the quarterback for the Denver Broncos moving forward. I believe they have found their franchise quarterback in Bo Nix, and I believe not that Bo Nix is going to be as good as Drew Brees was, but I believe just like Drew Brees was able to be successful in that Sean Payton system, I believe Bo Nix also has the characteristics to be successful in that Sean Payton system. And I believe Sean Payton, he noticed from day one that Bo Nix was going to be successful in his system. And I believe when you look at Bo Nix's rookie season, his 29 touchdown passes, only 12 interceptions, throwing for over 3,500 passing yards. And so far this year, Bo Nix, 8 touchdowns. He does have 4 interceptions, but he's starting to play better as the season goes along. But I'm really impressed with this Broncos defense. And they are led by defensive coordinator Vic Joseph. And I thought yesterday they did a tremendous job and they held the Eagles in check. Vance Joseph, he's a defensive coordinator for the Broncos. And I'm looking at that Broncos defense. As your pass rushers, you got Zach Allen, DJ Jones, okay? Jonathan Franklin Myers, Jonathan Cooper, all right? In that secondary, you got Pat Surtain, okay? You still got Hufanga, who they brought over in free agency, who's a former 49er, and they got Drake Greenlaw as well in that linebacker room. I really like this Broncos defense, and I thought they did a tremendous job applying pressure on Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. So give them a ton of credit. As great as the Broncos played in the fourth quarter, you cannot have a great comeback without having a significant collapse. And I believe that the Philadelphia Eagles collapsed in this football game. First and foremost, if you are the Philadelphia Eagles, can someone explain to me how the hell Saquon Barkley only has 6 carries for the game? 6 carries? This is Saquon Barkley that we're talking about here. Saquon Barkley had over 2,000 rushing yards last year. He was the best running back by far in the 2024 NFL season and was a big reason why the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. And you only give Saquon Barkley 6 carries? What the hell is going on in Philadelphia? Can somebody please explain to me what's going on in Philly? Offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo, I need answers. I need answers to these questions that I have. And the number one question that I have after that Eagles loss is how the hell you only give Saquon Barkley the football 6 times? That made no sense to me. That made no sense. Now what happened was the Broncos, they made adjustments because the Eagles had a lot of success throwing the football in the first half. And defensive coordinator Vance Joseph for the Broncos made adjustments. And so the Eagles, instead of the Eagles running the football, despite some of the defensive formations that the Broncos were in, they decided to continue throwing the football. And that's the thing. If you are a team in the NFL that is trying to run the football, no matter what defense the opposing team is in, you are going to run the football. And I think because the Eagles have been hearing a lot of the criticism and a lot has been made about the Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown relationship, I believe the Eagles, they showed a lot of arrogance against the Broncos, and they wanted to feed A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith in this football game instead of running the football with Saquon Barkley. And that's exactly how you lose a 14-point lead and lose a football game. You got to run the football with Saquon Barkley. And when I look at the Eagles offense, their first 7 drives against the Broncos, 17 points, yards per play was 7.1. They had 13 first downs. The 7th drive was a Barkley touchdown. Their last 5 drives against the Broncos, 0 points, 2.7 yards per play, 3 first downs. And so the Eagles offense, they completely abandoned the running game. And here's Saquon after the game on his lack of carries against the Broncos. Saquon Barkley. I don't really know what you want. If I touch the ball too much sometimes, we're not throwing enough. If we throw it too much and I only have 9 touches, I'm not in the business of what are we doing enough. I'm in the business of winning football games. We didn't win the football game. With 9 touches, we had the opportunity to win the football game still. We weren't detailed enough. Too many mistakes, too many penalties. That was Saquon Barkley in his post-game press conference on the lack of carries against the Broncos. And I believe Saquon was keeping it professional, but honestly, Saquon had a reason to be pissed off. 6 carries for your elite running back, unacceptable from the Philadelphia Eagles. And when I look at the Eagles overall as an offense, the Eagles now, they have had the fewest passing yards in a half twice this season. Against the LA Rams, I believe that was week 3, the Eagles, they only had -1 yard. They were -1 in passing yards in the first half against the Rams. Against the Buccaneers in week 4, in the second half, they had -18 passing yards. And not only are they only having halves where they're the fewest passing yards, they also have had a half this season where they had the fewest rushing yards. Yesterday against the Broncos, in the second half, the Eagles only had four rushing yards in the second half. And I'm looking at Saquon Barkley. You look at Saquon's numbers, and some may say that Saquon is having a down season. And I'm looking at his numbers. This is 2024 and 2025. His rushing yards per game in 2024 was 125. Rushing yards per game so far in 2025, 53.4. His yards per rush in 2024 were 5.8. His yards per rush in 2025 is 3.2. His rushes per game in 2024 were 21.6. In 2025 is 16.6. So I personally do not believe that Saquon Barkley is washed, and I still believe Saquon Barkley is the best running back in pro football. But I also believe that the Eagles, they need to manage Saquon, but in a game where you're up 14 points, you're supposed to lean on Saquon to bring you home in a game that you had control of heading into the fourth quarter. And I believe that's where the Eagles made their mistake. That's where they made their mistake. And so to me, the Eagles are still an elite team in the NFC. And I still believe that the Philadelphia Eagles will win the NFC East. But they got to improve offensively and find some balance. It seems like there are weeks where A.J. Brown is frustrated with the passing offense and he's not getting the football. And then there are games like yesterday against the Broncos where Saquon only has 6 carries. They got to find some balance offensively. Offensive coordinator Kevin Patullo and Jalen Hurts, they got to figure this out. Nick Sirianni, the head coach of the Eagles, needs to also be involved in trying to figure out some balance for this Eagles offense. I know the Eagles are still 4-1, and so some people believe the sky is falling in Philadelphia. I'm not going that far. These dudes just won a Super Bowl. They are the defending Super Bowl champions for a reason, but they got to get some balance offensively because right now they have no balance overall as a football team. And one more thing I want to point out about the Denver Broncos. When the Eagles were up 17-16, the Broncos, they scored a touchdown with 7 minutes and 36 seconds in the fourth quarter. So the Eagles were up 18, or it was 17-16 Eagles, 17-16 Eagles. And Sean Payton decided to go for a 2-point attempt. They got it. They went up 18-17. And so they got the football back. They kicked the field goal with a minute 14 left to go in the game, and they went up 21-17. And the reason why I thought that was important was because had Sean Payton kicked the extra point and they tied the game at 17 apiece, even if they kicked the field goal with minute and 14 left, the Eagles would have had an opportunity to tie the game up and send it into overtime, and it would have been 20-20 going into overtime. So big shout out to Sean Payton for going for 2. They got the 2-point conversion. They went up 18-17. And once they kicked the field goal on their last possession, they went up 21-17. So it forced the Eagles to have to score a touchdown to win the game instead of only having to kick a game-tying field goal. So big shout out to Sean Payton. And I believe that the Denver Broncos, along with the Chiefs and the Chargers, they are going to be in a battle for who wins the AFC West as the season goes along. So I believe the Broncos are officially back. I had them as a playoff team coming into the season, and I believe after these 2 wins over the Bengals and a big-time statement win over the Eagles, I believe the Denver Broncos are back, and they will have a say-so on who wins the AFC West. Those are my thoughts on Broncos-Eagles.